Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of the Stellium Astrology podcast. I'm Stephanie James, your host. I'm the founder of StelliumAstrology.com. I am a tutor at the London School of Astrology, and I'm also the ex-horoscope columnist for Elle Magazine UK. I'm currently sitting at my desk, and I jumped out the shower a little while ago and just got wet hair and stuff. I was all wrapped in a towel and I was just putting some moisturiser on, playing a game of solitaire on my phone, because I don't know about you guys, I don't really do much as far as gaming's concerned anymore. I used to love playing computer games, particularly my PlayStation. I was a bit of a gamer girl, but yeah, I just don't find the time anymore, because when I do have downtime from being a mum, I generally spend most of my mental time thinking about all the stuff I need to do, plus planning podcasts and all that, which takes up a lot of my time. So gaming isn't really a thing for me anymore, which is a shame. However, I have really just recently got hooked back into playing solitaire a lot, which is a game that I really get obsessed with. So anyway, I was just on my phone and I literally saw an email pop in practically immediately. I was just looking at it and I thought, I'll finish my game of solitaire and I'll have a look and see what it says. But it was saying something about the podcast, and the email was from somebody called Kathryn H, I'll call you, and it says, "Hi Stephanie, I hope you're well. I love your podcast and all the recent Synastry episodes, so interesting. Love hearing about all the aspects that can influence relationships and the dynamics between a couple/partnership, be it romantic, friendship or work-based. I've learnt a lot from these. I'm really glad you have. It's good to get the feedback. It's lovely to hear that people are enjoying them." Speaking of positive feedback, let me just read you this review that I've just posted up on my Instagram. I'm hoping to try and get a bit more active on Instagram again. I'm sorry guys, I know I'm just a bit... I feel like I'm quite flaky with social media nowadays. I never used to be. So here I've got a lovely review from Brimstone09 from the 10th of July 2022. I literally saw it the other day when I was just logging into my Apple podcasts. It'd been so long since I logged in. I just found my login details, so I got back in there and updated a few things, and I saw this review. And it says, "Top podcast find, 5 stars. I'm writing this review to encourage the algorithms to find you all. I wish that I had found this fab podcast earlier, and now that I'm hooked. Stephanie is an engaging host and has a logical way of presenting the vast topic of astrology, enabling a good and solid understanding of a complicated topic. This podcast popped up randomly on my feed, and I've gone back to the first and started listening from the beginning. I really like Stephanie's easy conversational style. It's like you're talking to a friend. She's funny, clever, quirky, and an incredibly knowledgeable and natural teacher. Thank you, Stephanie, for this brilliant astrology resource. I hope that by leaving this review that more people are able to find you." Thank you so much, Brimstone. I don't know who you are, but I really, really appreciate the review. You're on my Instagram page. If you're listening right now, my Instagram handle is @StelliumAstro. I've also got the same handle for Twitter, and my Facebook page is Stellium Astrology UK. And there are a few other social media channels that I use as well. When I say I use them, I haven't been using them really for a while. So anyway, back to the email I received after receiving such a lovely... I just feel like I'm being showered with love today. Yes, now, Kathryn, you said that you've been learning through astrology videos and podcasts and books for about 15 months now. So you're obviously a self-taught astrologer. I did a little bit. What I did was I joined a course. The first course I did was with an astrologer called Mary English, who I still see to this day. Mary also has an astrology podcast, and I'm going to have her as a guest on here at some point. Just got to get my mic issues sorted because it's just not working with my Mac, which is really annoying. So either I've got to sort out downloading an app, or I may have to buy another mic, or I could just carry on recording on my phone. We'll see. By the way, I'm doing my washing. That's the washing machine. So sorry about the noise. It's very annoying, but I need clean clothes. What can I say? But yeah, Mary is like somebody who not only can offer you a little bit of astrological insight, she can actually say, well, you know what? I can help you a bit here. Would you like a homeopathic remedy? Would you like to listen to a hypnotherapy recording? So yeah, she's great. And that's who I learnt with first. And then I went to the London School of Astrology and learnt with the great Frank C. Clifford. In between that, I did also do my own research. And I did start off doing my own research with like reading about the moon. I think lots of people get in through the moon first, don't they? It's like the most accessible, I think, of all of the, I say the planets, but, you know, it's a luminary, but we call it a planet. It is definitely the most accessible, and seeing as it's our nearest neighbour, also easy to relate because we get to see her on a regular basis as well. And if you're sensitive like myself, you'll actually feel her in her different phases and different signs and be very aware when she's in a certain place. So it's always great when you're tuning into astrology. I'm always a great admiration for people who can do the research and really study the subject themselves. I need the kind of classroom environment, at least to get me started. So Kathryn said that she had a story she wanted to share, and I thought it was quite interesting. She sent me some charts to look at as well. So she said that recently she's had a Mars square transit. She says, I think because I'm not 100% confident on transiting aspects to my natal chart, still trying to figure it out. Okay, maybe we can help clear that up. Mars was transiting my 3rd house of communication, squaring my natal 7th house Mars. On this day, my boyfriend of almost 6 years, no previous problems, accused me of cheating on him out of the blue. I was shocked, as I hadn't been. The only thing I can put it down to is me feeling a little off that week and being a bit distant due to a couple of things I hadn't communicated to him. Interesting. It's a communication issue. And he got the wrong idea. So 2 + 2 = 5. We have also had a couple of other arguments during this time. Could it be due to Mars, Uranus, North Node conjunction transiting through both our 4th houses? We do live together. Yes, it could quite possibly be that. I've attached pictures of both our charts with transits for the day this incident this incident happened. My chart is accurate. My boyfriend's is not, as his mum just told me he was born between 10 and 11 a.m. Annoying. Yes, I agree. But can't be helped because having given birth myself, I can now understand the cloud of confusion that you are in if you've had drugs or if you're on gas and air or if you're just in the moment. Anyway, we'll forgive his mum, but yes, it is annoying. In this hour, the ascendant changes from Capricorn to Aquarius. Very, very difficult when something changes sign because you have that deliberation of what are they. And she says she thinks his Capricorn rising, but she could be wrong. Usually with Aquarius rising, you see people who have kind of wild hair. It depends if they're a Uranian Aquarian or if they're a Saturnian Aquarian. Uranian Aquarians usually have quite wild hair. They have an almost electrical look about them. Whereas, the Saturnian Aquarians can be quite poker straight. I don't want to say bland, but they're not as exciting as an electrocuted person. And usually with Capricorn risings, there's often a kind of, you can see the goat in some way. Maybe they've got a good bone structure. Usually with the men, there tends to be a goatee. They like to have a little goatee. But yeah, there's usually, I think there's a definition between Aquarius and Capricorn rising. The problem is if you've got a Saturnian Aquarian, it might be difficult to figure. But yes, what might be interesting is to watch when the sun goes through Capricorn and Aquarius and see if your partner is going through a low energy period and when he suddenly perks up. It's worth paying attention to that because that could be a clue as to his ascendant. And also like when Mars goes through Aquarius and Capricorn and Aquarius, because if at some point he suddenly just starts to get a cold, that can be a sign that Mars has just crossed the ascendant. Or he might get a sudden burst of energy. It's worth paying attention to see how he reacts to planets moving through those signs, because it can be revealing. There's also a technique you can use called rectification. It's quite an advanced technique to ascertain a birth time and requires a lot of preparation before going into the actual rectification process. There are astrologers that offer that service. I do it loosely. I don't really do it as I don't really offer it as a service as such. But something that also is worth looking at is if your boyfriend is, if you're thinking about him in the day, If you've got an app like Astro Gold, which is what I use on my phone, and I highly recommend people buy that app. It is on the iPhone. It is about, I think when I bought it was £30, and I thought it was quite an expense, but I've had it across numerous phones now. It's my go-to. It is really, really brilliant. You can store all the charts on the cloud if you want to. It's a fantastic app, and they've brought out new features. But yeah, if you're thinking about someone during the day and you press calculate current transits, often something of theirs will be, a poignant point of theirs will be in a poignant place. So it could be the midheaven, their ascendant is on the midheaven, or their sun's on the midheaven, or their moon is rising. But if you can't recognise, if you see a point in Capricorn or Aquarius rising or on the midheaven or something, or maybe the transiting moon happens to be in one of those signs, it could be a clue to his ascendant. So just some tips for you there. Anyway, she sent pictures of his chart and her chart. She also thinks that his moon changes from Taurus to Gemini, but he's definitely a Taurus moon. There's no way he can be a Gemini moon. Be curious to know why you say that. I have a feeling that maybe he is maybe he likes his food. Maybe he's quite routine dependent. Has his comforts that he goes to. I'm thinking about my dad, who I'm not sure if his moon is potentially at the final degree of Taurus, and he is so stubborn, so stuck in his chair every evening, sits in the same spot, to the point that the chair's got a dent in it. It's that kind of thing. And he's always, even when we had the old furniture and the place was decorated differently, he was always in that same spot. And it's like he's moved ever so slightly, but he's got a new spot in a similar place, and it's the same sort of thing. And it's very, very ritualistic. He's very ritualistic. He's also very tactile. He'll walk down the road and he'll have to practically touch everything, which during the pandemic was a bit scary because he was on immunosuppressant drugs and he just couldn't stop touching everything. But actually... it's funny because you can see how tactile my dad is just from watching him move around the house and do things. He has to touch things. You could say that Gemini is very interested and curious. And I do think my dad's got a Gemini ascendant, actually. But it's... I think there's a difference. You can see the moon. You can see the habit in somebody as opposed to their kind of outlook. So it's very interesting. I'd be curious to know about your partner as well, whether he seems... You can ask him what his earliest memory is and see if you can associate that to Capricorn or to Aquarius as well. He might say, I think I was... I seem to remember my earliest memory, my house being full of people. My mum was always involved in doing work around the local area and, in the community church or something like that. She always I'd have people come over and she always sort of said to me that, these people are like our family. I'd have lots of aunties and uncles who weren't actually related to me, for example. Or maybe if it was a Capricorn home, perhaps, mum and dad were both working a lot. There was a lot of responsibility from a young age because, maybe he's got like a younger brother or something or sister that he had to kind of keep an eye on while mum and dad were busy. Maybe they had an austere childhood because there wasn't a lot of money. So they had to live on a very low budget and things were, it was kind of tough, or maybe they were quite strict and serious. You can ask that because the first house is usually an indicator of early life as well. It does describe the early life. It describes what you're born into. Ask for the birth story. See, all of these ideas around finding out whether the ascendant resonates. It's possible that, you're guessing he's a Capricorn rising because it fits him and that's that. But yeah, remember Aquarius does have that Saturn flavour to it as well, which can be a bit tricky. The moon moving signs is also kind of tricky. So he's either a late Taurus or an early Gemini moon. You don't think he's got a Gemini moon. So let's have a look at your chart. So you've got Taurus moon. If you think he's a Taurus moon as well, that would be interesting. But yes, his is late. I'm just having a look at your Venus. Your Venus is in Pisces. Where's his Venus? His Venus is in Scorpio. Your Mars is in Leo. His Mars is in Sag. Okay, so I'm not going to give out his birth chart details purely because I don't feel like, I don't know if he's consented. But I won't give out his name or anything. But I'll give out some information about him so that we know he is a Sag. So he has got his sun at 27 Sagittarius. So he is his sun's on the galactic center. That's like direct connection to the source. He's got moon in Taurus, it would seem, potentially. And he also has got his personal planet. So Mercury is in Sag. Venus is in Scorpio. Mars is in Sag. He's got Venus-Pluto conjunction in Scorpio as well. He has a Uranus-Neptune conjunction in Capricorn. Very interesting area of research for me. I'm still very deep in the throes of all my research with that. And he has, just to add a Saturnian flavour, a potential to have Saturn rising in Aquarius. You've got the ascendant at 29 Capricorn here. So, we don't know his actual ascendant. It's very difficult to tell. The other way you can tell with these things is, what transits has he had. Looks like he's got Pluto approaching. It's kind of difficult. Looks like the sun is approaching the descendant pretty soon. So you could have a look and see what's going on when the sun crosses the descendant. It would probably be putting a spotlight more on his relationships than it would be on himself. But an interesting one to look at. For yourself, Kathryn, you have got, you were born on the 2nd of April 1995 in Derby in the UK at 5 a.m, you say. So that's not a very specific, I say it's not specific, it's very specific to be born at 5 a.m. on the dot. How accurate is that? It's possible yours isn't as accurate. But maybe you are. Maybe you are one of those on-the-dot babies, turning up on time. You wanted to have a little look and see what I thought of the transits, and also saying that you want to book a consultation in the future. That will be possible. I am looking at sorting out my bookings diary, though in-person consultations are going to be few and far between. I'm launching some new services which are going to be pre-recorded, like I do on this podcast, where I am actually addressing your chart to you, and interpreting. You can ask me questions and I can address them if you want, just like I'm doing with Kathryn's email today, actually, really. So it's a good example of what I will be able to offer. Kathryn has Aquarius rising at practically 12 degrees. It looks like 11:52, I think. She's got sun in Aries at about 11:50 something, so that's a nice sextile to the ascendant. And she has got Taurus moon at about 5.5 Taurus. Now, you're talking about the Mars square transit. You're right. From what you're looking at, you can see that, and so you've done it for the day of the argument, which was the 16th of July 2022. Now, where are we? August the 5th, I'm recording this episode. So it'll come out at the end of the week. But yes, when Mars was transiting the 3rd house, very close to the 4th house cusp if you're using equal, it was applying to a square with your natal Mars in Leo. Now, I do like your natal Mars in Leo, and I'll tell you why. Because it's on the descendant, so that's something you project. So actually, you might find yourself in heated situations through other people, but you might not realise that you gravitate towards that. It's something that you project out, so it's almost like you don't own your Mars qualities, even though you are an Aries. So having your ruling planet on the descendant in the area of relationships and other people describes a sense of projecting. It's almost like you are of service to others over there. Relationships are very important to you. You do a lot of your learning through your relationships and through your interactions with others. And maybe you are only motivated when you are working as part of a team, when you're collaborating. When you're working on your own, you may find yourself a little bit struggling to find a direction as far as project work's concerned, for example, or anything. So being in a relationship and being part of a team may be the fuel to your fire, something that really inspires you. And maybe you're good at helping other people as well who need assistance. It could be that you are the person who, when someone says, oh, something awful happened, blah, 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 they share some dramatic, because Leo on the Descendant is sharing some kind of dramatic situation that's occurred. You can be the first person to step in and go, I'm going to fight for you. That's that kind of Mars on the 7th house cusp. And maybe you look for that typical Mars archetype, that masculine Adonis type in your partners. Maybe you're attracted to like a very, sexy physique, some people are more attracted to the brain, like the thought process, the mental connection. I'm not saying that you aren't, I'm just saying that it's likely that physical attraction is quite key for you. There are some people that are just not physically attracted until they've got a bit more of a familiarity with somebody. What would I say? That's I think that's demisexual, that's called. They're people that are attracted to people who they have a friendly foundation with first. Anyway, your Mars, actually, what I like about it is it's trine Jupiter, which is close to your midheaven, which I feel like anybody with Jupiter on the midheaven in Sagittarius is going to be saying, I thank my lucky stars every day, because maybe you just find yourself in fortunate situations in the right place at the right time. And if not, then there must just be a trusting you're going in the right direction sometimes. Trust that you're kind of in the flow, or the universal flow, basically. And, your partner's Sagittarius sun up there, he's also got Mars and Mercury and his midheaven in Sag too. Well, we don't know about the midheaven, do we? And we don't know exactly about the house placements, but we do know that he has got Mars, Mercury and the sun in Sag. That's a nice little connection for you to have some of his personal planets. 3 of his personal planets, up there mingling with your Jupiter, which is in its rulership there. So that's quite a nice connection for you. I like that. And all of that, your Jupiter and your Mars, is trine your sun in Aries, which is lovely. That, you have a nice grand trine. I think in some ways, like I've said before in the trine episode, it can be a little bit complacent having a trine in the chart. You don't always take action, and you don't always recognise the gifts that a trine can bring. Having your Mars projected out onto the 7th house as well, it could be that your trine is only recognisable, the good fortune that comes to you, the action that you're able to take, the leadership you're able to offer, is only inspired through through others. And maybe sometimes they're the ones that help to guide you, because you just need that guidance. It must be hard to be an Aries with your ruling planet sitting there on the Descendant. The other thing that I think is difficult for you, Kathryn, is the fact that you have got a Taurus moon as well as an Aries sun. You've got that dynamic, go-getting Aries sun that just wants to take action and get going and do everything it needs to do. But that moon is like an anchor sitting down around the 4th house cusp, sort of weighing you down almost. And I have to say that it's probably... for all of that action-orientated Aries essence that you might possess, there's also this low energy, maybe not low energy, but just conservative with its energy, Taurus moon, who, would rather wait until the time is right to take action, and can be very, very, very slow with making decisions and getting things sorted, as opposed to the Aries that would go full steam ahead. So there's this like real dichotomy of wanting to get there and go as quickly as possible and do everything you need to do, plus the Taurus moon, which, sort of holds you back. So that's probably why your Mars needs to be there on the Descendant, because other people need to give you that kick up the bum. Anyway, that's enough about you. Looking at the transits, you did read the transits correctly. So the transits are always moving around the chart in an anti-clockwise way. Pardon me, I've got to put my teeth in. and Mars is ticking along. If I can look at the little grid down there, it does look like it's actually exact on the day. I'm struggling to see the numbers because it's very a little bit blurry. But yeah, it's Mars on the day of that argument was at 13 degrees of Taurus, and you've got Mars at 13 Leo, which is just around your descendant. So that Mars was triggering your natal Mars, which is interesting. It's a bit wide for a square, I think, but it's also I think activating your natal Uranus. It is wide actually, but actually it could explain why things came out of the blue with Mars. Oh, sorry, no, that's your moon. That is Mars. That is Mars. My apologies. Yeah, because the reason I'm looking at this is because you've got moon, because your moon's down there and Mars went over your moon. It could be that not only did you go a little bit insular, and what's interesting is you said that you were a bit withdrawn and not communicating. Well, your Taurus moon is energy conservative, and it's also passive, whereas Mars and Aries are very active signs. So having your moon down there in the third house, being passive and not necessarily wanting to waste energy explaining how you feel or going through that, and being withdrawn is definitely something that will that Mars is kind of powering up, firing up that lunar quality that you possess. It may be that you also kind of lent on some creature comforts while you were going through that sort of week. Maybe you were eating a bit more because Taurus moon does enjoy their food. Maybe you were doing things that bring you comfort, like, I don't know, repeating certain things that brought you comfort from your childhood. Maybe this is something that's interesting. I read, I think it was Fast Food Nation, and McDonald's decided that, the marketing people at McDonald's that they've had for years, they're very, very good at what they do. And they know that if they can get one child through the door, they can often bring in two adults. And they also know that if you create memories from a young age, you will always go back to that place as a sense of comfort. So McDonald's know that it's a comfort zone for a lot of people who've taken their children to McDonald's. It's a good memory for the parents. It's a memory for the children. Every time you take a bite out of that burger, those nuggets, whatever, and you're looking at the very cleverly styled logo, which is burned into the memories of all of us. We all know what those golden arches are. We are instantly filled with a sense of nostalgia. That's why they do the Happy Meal toy, because they want to get children through the door who they've got a toy. The parents love seeing their children enjoying the toy, and long before they realise quite how bad for you McDonald's was, they thought that it was a nice little cheap day out, a bit of fast food while you're out shopping or whatever with your family. But what the family didn't realise was that they've been targeted, and the marketing campaign is get that child through the door, make the child happy. Thus, the parents are happy. Feed them, fill them with a sense of nostalgia. We've got a clown here. We've got, some places have a ball pit and a play area. The child's got the toy. So it's targeted around children in order to create, as early as possible, indelibly imprint the subconscious with a sense of comfort associated with that food and with that branding and marketing. So I know I went on a McDonald's waffle, and I'm not saying that you're a fast food junkie. However, I might say that it's possible you did decide to get some fast food takeouts that week because you couldn't be bothered to cook, or you weren't really feeling it. You just wanted to snack on stuff that was comfort food or quick and easy. Mars to the moon wants fast food. So I'd be curious to know if you did. And you do have a moon square Mars, so it might be a bit of a battle with you anyway. The diet, it could be that you struggle with wanting to exercise, and wanting, it's the difference between taking your time over food and really developing your techniques as far as cooking and food prep are concerned, or just picking up the phone and dialing for a Papa John's or something. I have a moon Mars square, so I'm very conscious of food. I have a moon in Scorpio square Mars in Aquarius, so we have the opposite You've got Moon in Taurus, square Mars in Leo, so we've got opposites here. But I like to eat healthily as much as I can, but I do get if I have to prepare food for myself, it's whatever is quickest and easiest. I'm quite lazy when it comes to food prep. I'm preoccupied with other things, and I do enjoy getting a takeout every now and again, but I'm conscious of eating healthily and well. So anyway, long waffles here that I've gone on today. Now, that was looking at the argument. So yes, you are right. When Mars is when transiting Mars squares our natal Mars, it's an invitation to handle a situation where we're either frustrated, where we are dealing with either energy bursts or we require more energy, so we push through. And usually it's interesting to see it with other people, when you're watching other people's charts, if they find something that really triggers them. I'd say that a Mars square is a triggering transit, whether it's the opening or closing square. Yours is the closing square because it's actually at what we would call the 3/4 moon position, moving up towards a new moon with your natal Mars. And so this is now your Mars square is definitely closing. So it could have been addressing a whole cycle of aggravation and arguments with your partner over the space of about 2 years. So have a look and see when the Mars was opposing and when it was in its opening square, what was going on for you, if you can remember, or if you have any way of accessing what was going on back then. And also when you've got the Mars conjunction, which would have happened, when was it in Leo? Where's my ephemeris? I do have stuff nearby. I have my ephemeris. Bear with me. Where is it? Right at the bottom of the pile. Mars, where are we? We are in 2022. Mars was in Leo in July 2021. It was at 13 Leo on the 3rd of July 2021. So that's when you had your conjunction. That was the opening, that was the beginning, the new moon, the beginning, the closure of one Mars cycle and the birth of a new one. So that's interesting to have a wee butcher's at. And yeah, then we have a look at when it was in, oh gosh, where are we now? So going to Capricorn, no, not Capricorn. Come on, Stephanie. Yeah, so when it was in Aquarius. So, so you got Leo, Mars in Leo. So let's have a quick look. I've skipped something here. So Mars then went to Leo. Leo, Libra, Scorpio. So Mars was in Scorpio. So it went July 2021, then November, sort of around the 19th, 20th of November. It was its opening square in Scorpio. Then it was opposing, your natal Mars. And that was in, that was the 24th of March, 2022, this year. And now we are in, it was this July, was it? When was that? Did it happen? July the 16th, which was when it was at, I've got around here actually that it was actually at 13 Taurus around the 26th of July. So that was, because it's a bit slower moving Mars as well, remember. So yeah, the argument happened on the 16th, according to this. So I think it was still kind of applying a little bit to your natal Mars, if I'm seeing the numbers correctly. So yes, and then, so the closing, literally when you're going to have your Mars return, which is the new moon of the personal planet transits, is going to be in, where are we? Where's Leo? I believe, in... Yeah. So it's going to happen... Sorry, everybody, if this is a bit long and slow. I think the 21st of June next year. That seems quite far away. But no, that's fine. So these are your Mars. This is how you can tap into your Mars and think of it like a moon phases, but you know, it's a phase. It's a phase. So yes, so your partner on the day of the argument, also potentially with his moon in Taurus. It's interesting, whenever Mars will go over the moon is the most sensitive. I say the most sensitive point. It is where we are sensitive. It can be triggering. So, you know, it's any planet that transits our moons will trigger a sense of habitual behaviour, knee-jerk reactions, and it is our sun is kind of what we go out and present to the world and grow into, but our moon is kind of our private, personal nature and what we experience in private and at home. So Mars was in his 4th house, and he has Mars Mars is in Sagittarius, so he's got a fiery Mars, and it's trine your Mars as well, so that's nice. So you've got that Mars. His Mars is on your Jupiter. So when your Mars was activated by that Mars square, it did trigger you. It triggered your Mars, and it sort of by default has fed in by trine in a strange way. So his Mars, I don't even know if that's connected by aspect really. It looks like a quincunx to me, that Mars transiting Mars, a quincunx. Yes. So because it's 150 degrees away, it looks to me. So actually, if you think about the quincunx as a light switch, like I've said many times, it's either on or it's off. I suppose when a planet is transiting and aspects a planet by quincunx, it forces that natal planet to be switched on in a sense. So his Mars was suddenly switched on, but not in the same way that you might have been triggered by something. It's just a power up, a power on. Now, I can't see paranoia in that aspect, but I can see paranoia in his chart in respect to the fact that Venus and Pluto in a man's chart can describe maybe sometimes that a man might not always be able to trust the woman in their life, because Scorpio it deals with betrayal often, and it does struggle with trust because it's so secretive and private, because it's been betrayed so many times. Pluto being there as well, it's very, I think, adds emphasis. And, maybe he's been cheated on in the past, and this is something that's triggered him. This behaviour, this shift in your behaviour, you've become unpredictable to him. Taurus moon doesn't like unpredictability. Venus and Scorpio doesn't like unpredictability. And none of the fixed signs are particularly keen on unpredictability, unless you're very Uranian, in which case unpredictability can be quite exciting. Yes, that's quite interesting. The moon and Saturn were in conjunction that day as well of the argument. It could have been, he was protecting himself, like his boundaries. If he has got an Aquarius ascendant, or, if his ascendant is late Capricorn, it's possible that Saturn and the moon were in his 1st house at the time that this happened. You mentioned also the Mars-Uranus conjunction. Happening with the nodes as well. That is happening in your 4th house, and it's the North Node in your 4th house, and potentially his 4th house too. But I would say that as it's not, I think for you it's triggering you, it's triggering your natal Mars again, it's triggering your ascendant. There's definitely it's picking up on your chart quite prominently. And in your partner's chart, hard to say with the ascendant and things like that, but it's opposing his Venus, and it's potentially hanging around the midpoint of the Pluto and Venus conjunction he has. It looks as though this could be a transit which forces him to address perhaps his more paranoid nature through previous relationships, which have caused him to jump to conclusions in this way. And it might prompt him to feel like he needs to have more control in the relationship and potentially more control over you, which is not always the nicest feeling, particularly if you're a footloose, fancy-free Aries with Aquarius rising. But for you, definitely where it's squaring your Mars, I would say that it is prompting you to firstly take offence to the accusation, and then possibly to help you to address and realign your value system a bit more. Figure out what's really important, what you prioritise, and, you know, maybe your priorities in your relationship and how to move forward from that. So thank you for your email. I'm sorry if this is a bit of a long waffly episode, but I found it interesting and was able to do a little off the cuff today. You also did do me great service here by paying me a compliment saying, P.S. You're doing a great job multitasking the podcast and parenting. Appreciate you continuing with it while adjusting to parenthood. Thank you. I always appreciate flattery and compliments. So, yes, I am juggling, and thank goodness I have a Gemini ascendant, because if I didn't, how on earth else would this be continuing right now? So, yes, I can publish Kathryn's birth data. I can't publish her partner's. You know, we've got some placements here, but I can't really give much else. But for all of you listening, just know that Mars is around 14. Sag, the moon, is about, depending on the time, potentially the late degrees of Taurus. So we don't really know. And yes, he's got Venus at 15 Scorpio as well. So that's as much as I can give out, really, I feel, without being too revealing without his consent. But yeah, it's another interesting way to look at the charts. And just as the email came in, I thought you'd also find it interesting, Kathryn, and anybody listening, that as the email came in, and I was glancing, the moon is currently in Scorpio as I record this episode. It was at about 11 Scorpio when the email arrived. So it's just about to move over your partner's Venus and Pluto, and opposing your moon. It's been opposing your moon, it's literally squaring your Mars. The sun today, as I record, is at 12:55 Leo, which is on your Mars, highlighting your Mars, also highlighting your descendant, which is your relationships, which is what we've been talking about. Now, where's the ascendant of the moment? The ascendant's at 22 Virgo, which keeps popping up for me lately, interestingly. And the midheaven at the time of this podcast is at 19 Gemini, which happens to be my very close to my ascendant, actually. And oh yes, Mars is at about 20 degrees of Taurus. Uranus is at 18. The North Node is at 18 Taurus as well. So yeah, that's that's all going on. That's all. I just find it interesting to always look at the times, the moments that things are happening. So all interesting stuff. Hope you enjoyed it. Anybody listening, thank you for tuning in today. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel if you'd like to be in with a chance for winning a Magic of Eye Astrological Almanac. All you have to do is subscribe, and if you have a private channel, just screenshot your subscription to me and literally email it Stephanie, Stefanie at stelliumastrology.com. Any of the other links you might need relating to this podcast, you can find in my little link that I've created at the bottom underneath the episode, which will take you to multiple places you can visit. Can I please strongly advise that you go and sign up to my mailing list, where you'll be able to sign up and submit your chart to be interpreted by myself on this podcast, like I've done today with Kathryn. And if you like this style, if you liked the idea of receiving a personal spoken interpretation from me, That's definitely a service I'm going to be offering. So please let me know if you like that. If you like the idea, you can email me, stephanie@stelliumastrology.com. There's a suggestions link as well below that you can fill out for me if you've got any ideas. And yes, I am just figuring out the best way to set this up, and I will get it set up and sorted as soon as possible so we can get going and get people booked in. If you want to book an in-person appointment with me, I will be letting people on my mailing list and my patrons know the first port of call. So if you would like a personal reading with me, sign up to the mailing list, because that's where I'm going to be advertising it. Okay, thanks guys, take care. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you found it interesting. Always nice to look at a listener's chart, and like I said, I want to get back to that. So yeah, let's get that show on the road. I've still got a few Synastry episodes to cover, but yeah, I think it will be great to get back to the old format. And I can still do celebrities and stuff, but when it's you guys and your personal stuff, I think it's definitely much more interesting to explore. Take care, you guys. Thanks a lot. Speak to you soon. Bye bye.